Hello, guys, and welcome to Mark Tully, The Vernal, a spoken journal where we talk about real-life situations, mental health, and personal development tools that you can use to overcome them and reach your full potential. Today is an exciting day, as it always is, but here we have Dr. Mark Williams, who is a cognitive neuroscientist. I am absolutely excited to have him on, my first person with actual intelligence instead of AI. But really absolutely honoured to have you on, Mark. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. Thanks for getting me in touch.
Yeah. Well, I'll just quickly brush over how I actually know you. And that was doing the 20 Talk charity, which is an amazing charity. Getting 20-year-olds is the aim, 20 and up, 18 to 30, I think they do the courses for, and they're actually going into schools now as well. Just talking about mental health in an accessible way. They started it, the two lads started it because they had some lads, take their own life and their friends, and they thought everything that was available they wouldn't use. So they was creating something to use, and one of the things they do to raise money is they get like 250 people in a warehouse, and there's no technology, no talking. So the 20 talks, like the irony, I guess. And I fucking hell, the experience was very profound. I knew, like, I really, when you know something, even though like you can't predict the future, but I knew I was going to enjoy it because of the break from just the world, the life, like you drive down the street and you're just pulling in information all the time. You're getting information off your phones, but even without your phone, like, chatting to your mates at a coffee shop, you can see in the background there might be a chemist warehouse with about 50 different signs and plastered all over the windows and stuff. So we're constantly getting bombarded with information. And I knew that break was going to be good for me. And it was absolutely bliss. But then what took me by surprise was the unbelievable community feeling and connection that I gained with everybody that was there. There was some group journals going around and people were saying why they were there, or it might have been themselves or a family member that was, struggling, or something like this. People were asking for advice and people were giving advice, and just through writing, incredible. Mark came and gave a really, really interesting talk, and I was like, I need to get in touch with this guy and speak to him more. And he went on his website and his number's there. So I just phoned him up. I was like, is that Mark? Yes, hello. I was like, oh, great. And then we met in Monavale, beautiful cafe on the beach there, had a chat, and here we are. So yeah, without me going into too much detail and messing it up, Mark, would you like to properly introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So I'm a professor of cognitive neuroscience, but I sort of left full-time academia a few years ago because I saw the issues that are happening out in societies. To begin with, it started in schools. So I've been doing a lot of work in different schools around getting people more connected within the schools, getting teachers connected with the students, getting the community connected. And then since then, because I do a lot of parent events at those schools, I've had a lot of senior people at organisations ask me to go into organisations and talk to them as well. So it sort of flourished from there because there is so much need now for us actually to reconnect, which is actually, our brains have actually evolved to enable us to connect, not disconnect. And that's really sad that we're in this state that we're in at the moment, which is, profound loneliness and as a result, mental health issues throughout society. We've got to get back to what's important, which is actually spending time with each other.
Yeah. The connection thing, that was one of my biggest takeaways from your speech, was that our brain hasn't changed much from 50, 40,000 years. And the connection part meant that we lived. And without the connection part, we were probably going to die. So it was like, because you weren't in a tribe, you weren't connected with people. But you just said that our brains have evolved, did you say, to learn to disconnect and reconnect?
So our brains, over, millions of years, our brains have learned what our group is, what our tribe is, and who our tribe is, and to be always looking for that tribe, to be looking for that ability to associate with it. And that's why loneliness is so bad, because you can imagine, as you said, our brains haven't changed in the last 30, 40,000 years, 50, probably 75, 80,000 years, according to some people. And for the vast majority of that time, we were hunter-gatherers, right? We were actually spending time with each other. And not to have that means that you're extremely vulnerable and you're at risk of dying, which is why loneliness kills us, which is why we're wired not to be by ourselves. We're wired to be with people, and we need to be with people, and we need to be with our tribe, with our group, and that's really why loneliness causes all these mental health issues, causes psychosis, causes us to die early, causes us to get mental health issues and neurodegenerative issues as well, and cardiovascular problems. You've got all these people who are getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning and doing ice baths and rubbing avocado over themselves and doing all these ridiculous things to make themselves healthier. Well, at the same time, they're isolating themselves from the people that actually matter. And if they actually just spent time with people, they'd be a lot happier and a lot healthier than they would be doing all those extreme things that they do.
Yeah, I do love an ice bath myself, but I've never rubbed that. And if I was going to do it, I'd be doing it with friends. So there we go. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, can I dig a little bit deeper into that and ask, would you say that the connection thing, and I'll let you I'll explain, repeat your own words, was the 15 minutes with someone that you know and like and trust 3 times a week for 15 minutes. That's like the minimum sort of baseline. But so there is a lot of stuff like breath work and ice baths, and I don't know who's rubbing the avocado on themselves, but I'll probably look into that one. I might avoid that one actually. The curiosity is probably not going to go too far with that one, but although with most things it does. Out of all the things that are available right now, or I don't know how to word this. Basically, I'm asking, how significant is the human connection thing to a person's health, opposed to all the other things that are out there? Is it the number one, or where does it lie?
Oh, yeah, by far the number one. So there was a Harvard study which has been going on for 75 years, right? And the Harvard study, every 5 years they release the data, and they've been surveying hundreds of thousands of people for 75 years, and they've been following up every 5 years. And every time that data is released, which it was just recently released, all the behavioural scientists go nuts over it. But over all that period, the one thing that comes out clearly every single time is that spending time with people you trust and love on a regular basis, just face-to-face talking to them, it improves your cardiovascular system, decreases mental health issues, you live for 10 to 15 years longer, you decrease neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease, you improve your IQ. Like, it is number one. And it's better, actually spending time with someone you like on a regular basis is better than any drug we've currently got in relation to mental health. So it's better than any drug we've got. And this is why psychologists and psychiatrists work, right? Because that you're paying someone to be your friend, right? You're paying someone to sit down and chat with you on a regular basis. And that's why CBT and these things and psychoanalysts and so on, they work because they're just a friend, right? And sadly, we have to pay someone to be a friend sometimes, rather than having someone who's just a friend that we can sit down with. Now there's other benefits to going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist because they have training. And so if you are in a clinical depression, it's important to go to those people. But if it's just you're sad, which is what a lot of people are, then just hanging out with a friend will stop you from getting to that level. Will stop you getting to the clinical level where you've actually got to go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So, yeah, it's the most important thing we can do. And we should all be doing more of it. And if we're lonely, I mean, this is why in prisons they're now not allowed to socially isolate people, right? It's illegal to put someone in social isolation because we know that causes psychosis. That kills people. That literally kills you. And it causes psychosis. It causes stress and anxiety, which increases cortisol levels, which will actually cause your heart to start beating way too fast, and you'll have a heart attack and all these things. So, it is so vital to us to actually spend time with people face to face, and it's got to be face to face. You can't do it over online because it's not the same response. Yeah, sadly, this is good if you have to, and this is good for obviously recording podcasts and so on. But we met up together, down at the cafe to actually have a chat, and that was a real chat, right? We actually had the opportunity to shake hands, to touch each other, which is really important. We had the opportunity to read each other's body language and work out prosody of the voice and work out, facial expressions and all those things which are so important for us, which release all these extra neurotransmitters like dopamine. You get online and you get face-to-face, but then face-to-face you also get serotonin and you get oxytocin and you get a whole bunch of other endorphins, which last a lot longer. So you feel better for longer. Whereas when you do it online, as soon as you close the laptop, you feel crap, right? Because it's just dopamine. And dopamine's a really transient neurotransmitter that doesn't last.
Yeah, actually, I felt great. I went and left there and went to night shift. But yeah, I was. You're right. There was a lot of stimuli there. There was, meeting somebody. Would I say for the first time, like meeting someone properly for the first time? Even like I'd had a little look at your work and stuff, and I was like, this guy's he's a powerhouse for trying to improve humanity. And yeah, I was really, really excited. We had that great view in it as well. And yeah, you're right. There was definitely the sort of the buzz of meeting someone and all the rest of it and arranging to do a podcast and things. Because this is only 1 year old. This is the first podcast of the second year recording it. This one won't be released till October, but I have a few backlogged up, which is great. Like I've never been that far ahead. And so really exciting stuff
a lot of hard
that
work.
way. Mate, it's not though. It's like people would say that, and like my friends this week, come for tea, and I'm busy. I'm doing this. I'm working on slides for the event I've got coming up on the 31st. I hope you can make it to.
Yeah, I've got to do that.
And the workbook for that as well, and things like this. And it doesn't feel like work, but before understanding your knowledge and everything on human connection, I'd already identified it, and I'm guessing it's going to be something in my body is saying that you need this. So I'm like, right, I need to spend time with my friends, because I've grown and changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, but I still have my friends that would drink a lot, and I still go drinking with them and party with them and all the rest of it. I'm never going to deny that. I fucking love it, right? But I do it few and far between now, because I'm busy doing other stuff. I've got this purpose, this like higher purpose for my life. I've found out why I'm here, you know what I mean? And I fell in love with human, like the way your mind and emotions work and stuff like this. And I'm doing it on a really, in my eyes, relatable level to myself and my younger self, because I've not got the education you have and things like that. So I'm getting stuff in, and I have to understand it in the way that I do. And then so I can explain it in an understandable way, right? I'm a Sparky, you know what I mean? I'm not a neuroscientist or a doctor in any way, or a psychologist or any of this stuff. So yeah, the friends that I made, well, people say you need to, lose your friends when you grow, and I call bullshit on that. I would agree if they're not real friends, but if they're real friends, they're coming with you, because mine are fully 100% behind me, even though they'll be like, not interested in it. But yeah, and I love that. I really do. It's special. So I still make a point of going and spending time with him. Like, if I said, if I've said, I fucking hate saying no, but like, I know I need, I need to do what I'm doing and stuff like this. And yeah, and then when I do go spend time, I'll make sure it counts, and it really does. But now that you're backing up with all this information, that's, tremendous to know the science behind it. And I would like to ask a question, though, because I know some people that like to be isolated by themselves. So is there anomalies? Is it everybody needs this connection thing, or are some people just not in that category?
Yeah, no, everyone needs the connection, because we've all got the same brain, basically, right? But our experiences have been different. And so some people are very good at getting more value from less time with people. So they're usually more intense people who like that time alone, because when they're with someone, they almost, it's almost like they suck more of that energy out of the situation than most people do. So you have people who don't get as much value from each minute with people socializing, so they need a lot more time with people to actually get the same amount of value out of it. Whereas there's other people who get a huge amount of value out of a short period with people, and so they don't need as much to refresh their well, if you like, or whatever you want to call it. So there is that difference, and that's usually the way people have been brought up and the experiences they've had, and how they actually relate to people. But you'll find they're usually the more intense people.
Right.
I find that I some weeks I'm around hundreds of thousands of people, and other times I'm by myself just writing in my office. And when I do that, I make sure that each day I go and catch up with someone just for half an hour. But I only need half an hour in a day, right? Whereas I know other people, my wife, for example, she needs to be around people all the time. Because she doesn't suck as much out of each time as much as I do.
So you're full on avocados and all, and she's more relaxed.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I wouldn't say I was full on. I would say I'm more intense. I'm really interested in people, and I think that's what actually does. She is also interested in people, but at a different level, I think. Whereas, I really want to know who the people are and spend time actually doing that.
Yeah, I found it was as if we'd known each other for a large amount of time. I guess maybe it's because we align with, we're trying to make a difference, right? Like a positive impact, I guess. And
same values.
I would see myself as sort of grasshopper, and you'd be, Yoda, like way ahead of me in that respect, So, but I've only really been doing this for a year and a half, basically. Not even. I've always enjoyed helping people, though. That's why I know what I'm doing is correct, because it aligns with me. I just found a passion, and now I'm using the passion to create a purpose. Whereas I've always, throughout my life, like, not everybody, obviously. There's, there's lines that are drawn and stuff like this. But if you're in my friend circle or a stranger that gets the benefit of the doubt, I'll do whatever I can. Oh, like there's the poor lady fell over, right? Like, ran over and helped her up.
Yeah,
just at our meeting.
Poor old thing.
Yeah,
there's a great study that just recently came out, an amazing study, I reckon, where what they did, they got people in to do an experiment, but the experiment wasn't anything to do with what they were actually looking at. And what they did after they did the experiment, it was a little game thing they had to do, and they gave them all the same amount of money at the end, but they said they'd all won this money. But one group, they said, this is money for you and you've got to go and buy something for yourself. And the other group, they said, this is money that you've got to give to someone else and someone who you think needs it. And then they got them back in after 2 weeks and looked at how happy they were afterwards. And the ones that were told they had to give it to someone else were far happier because they'd given it to someone else than the ones that actually spent it on themselves, right? We love to help other people. We might not realise it sometimes, but we actually do love. That's the way we're wired, is to actually help people. And we get more enjoyment out of volunteering and helping and enabling other people than we do out of our own success, which is amazing, really. We're an amazing species in that way. We've just got to appreciate it better.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And would that mean, because like selfish people tend to get a lot of sort of people that don't like them. Would that be why? Because we're mostly wired to help people, and that's why we are the most successful species on the planet.
Yeah. So, I mean, we became the alpha, right? Not because we're the fastest or the strongest or we have the largest brain or the most complex brain, because we don't have any of those things, right? And we're pretty lame, really, when it comes to a species on this planet. We became the alpha species because we help each other and we collaborate with each other, and that's why we really dislike people who are selfish, right? We dislike people who are greedy. We dislike. It's not surprising that if you look at the 7 deadly sins, they're all around being selfish and being greedy and gluttony and all these things, right? Because when we were back in that little tribe and when we were hunter-gatherers, we all would have shared everything, and everybody would have had to have shared everything. And if you didn't share, then you would have been shunned, right? You would have been kicked out of the tribe because you weren't sharing with everyone else. And that's who we are, right? We want to share and we want to contribute and we want to be part of that group. And so people who are selfish, you'll find they're not happy, right? They're not happy people at all. And you look at anyone who is selfish. I mean, Elon Musk is probably the most well-recognized selfish individual on this planet. Yeah, exactly. Right, and I've seen that he went viral on one of his podcasts where he said empathy is bad and he's not empathetic and all the rest of it. And it's like that shows how unhuman he is, right? Because empathy is our number one trait. Yeah, absolutely. Which is a disorder, right? And he obviously does have major issues of the fact that most of his kids won't talk to him, it suggests that he does have major issues. And most people you find, well, I've never met a selfish person who was happy.
It must come from like a lack, like a
Yeah.
scarcity or something like this, and lots of insecurities.
Yeah, lots of
But yeah,
insecurities. I think something's happened in their past which has made them feel as though they can't trust people, and so therefore they've got to hoard it themselves. But it comes from they need help, right? They need to realise that that's not natural and there's something going on there that they need to deal with.
dig down and release some traumas.
Some
Come and
trauma.
speak to a
Yeah, there is
coach.
some trauma back there. Yeah, come and talk to you. Come and talk to Mark
Oh
Tully.
well,
He'll fix
yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only people without trauma, right, are dead. They're the only people at complete peace, right? I mean, whether we like it or not. And what I've been learning, I did ayahuasca at the start of May, and what incredible experience. But on the topic that we're talking about, like some trauma, you have 7 generations of it. You have 7 generations of knowledge and stuff as well, like going back spiritually. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Now, I'm a really skeptical person, right? Like, sort of believe it when I see it, like, very open and curious, but I'm not going to buy into things. I used to think all the spiritual stuff was a bit woo woo, and then I eventually sort of came around to, okay, it's a real thing. And then I was like, right, I want to work on this. I want to go. Basically, the first sort of step that I directly did, because everything's linked, obviously, you go to the gym, you're improving your spirituality. And your mental health as well as your physical, obviously. But yeah, I went and I was there and I experienced it. And there was a guy doing a ceremony on a girl and stuff, and she had some problems with her smell, and he was like getting in her glands and he pulling stuff out and chucking it away. And I'm sat with a shaman having like a chat with him, and he's spinning the stuff around and throwing the energy away. And I was like, all right, what's going on there? And then he goes, oh, there's a pivot point coming. Look. I looked over and he's like thingy, and he comes around and he claps, and then this wave like hit me in the chest to this energy or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, right, this is real then. I felt that. So yeah, there you go. There was the evidence. I would like to rewind back to, you mentioned you and your wife are different. Is that in the intensity of and the need for the amount of human connection per day? Is that common with males and females? Is there common differences? Because I know, like, we are more logical and rational, and females are more emotional. Is that something that, yeah, could tell us about that?
So yeah, we're actually. I'm going to be controversial here. We're actually not. There's actually no difference between a male brain and a female brain. There's been no evidence. There's a tiny little area which is about the size of a pea, which is a slightly different shape. It's more rounded, like a soccer ball in males, and it's more of an almond shape in females, and that releases the hormones. So that's why we have different hormones being released. But nothing else about the brains are actually different. And everything,
Wow.
all the things that we see that are different between males and females is because of the way we're treated and what we learn from before we're born. So before we're born, once a mother finds out whether or not their child is going to be male or female, soon as they find out their child's going to be male or female, the doctors and the nurses will treat that mother differently depending on whether it's male or female. As soon as the baby's born, the child's treated differently depending on whether it's male or female. They've done a
Oh,
beautiful
wow.
study where they had exactly the same baby and they wrapped it in a blue rug versus wrapping it in a pink rug. And everybody from the nurses to the midwives to the doctors to the people who were coming to visit who came in treated the baby differently, a baby, whether or not it was in pink or whether or not it was in blue. And from then on, before you're even born, you'll be treated differently and you'll be expected to be a certain way from then on. And that's what trains us to think that we're more analytical and to think that we're less social and so on. And that's what makes females think that they're more social and they're more analytical and da-da-da. But we're not. We're only that way because of the fact that we're being told constantly and we're being trained in that way. So even once you get to school, as soon as you get to school, even preschool, they'll dress girls in dresses and they dress boys in shorts, right? Now, there's no reason they haven't gone through puberty yet, so there's no reason to have girls in dresses and boys in shorts or anything like that, right? But it means that girls aren't going to be playing on the monkey bars and all the rest of the things because they've got dresses on, so they can't do all of that, whereas the boys can do that sort of stuff. So they learn that's what they're supposed to be doing. The girls learn that that's not what they're supposed to be doing, and then it just perpetuates. It becomes stronger and stronger and stronger as you go on, and that then affects how your brain develops as you go through all the years, and that's why we end up the way we are. But it's because of the society and the way we're trained, not actually because there's anything different to us. Obviously, we're different physically, but not brain-wise.
Yeah, you can't be tricking us on that one. No, that's
really obvious.
That's really interesting. I have a few points in it. We're going to get in a good discussion here, but I would like firstly to point out they're not dressing boys in shorts in Scotland. We wear trousers. It's freezing. No, they did actually have shorts. I remember shorts in the summer, but yeah, we wore them about
I
1 or 2 days a year.
You all had kilts on. I was going, no, it's not true.
Oh, that'd have been fantastic.
Yeah,
that'd have been fantastic. Yeah, I like wearing my kilt actually. No, so back to the conversation. We are okay. Yeah, so the brain is the same, right? That's really, I did not know this. This is news to me, so I'm really fucking enjoying this. We are different though. And my understanding up until now, this is how open I am, was biologically women give life. Fucking one of the best things, the most amazing thing in the world, right? And they then nurture their life. That was why their emotional intelligence was higher, like as they were born, biologically as the standard, right? Just bear with me. This is my understanding. So I'll explain. And then the men, our job is to protect this sacred thing that they can do, right? To physically, emotionally provide for them emotional safety. So like when they're being emotional, we can be rational and logical and, be a sounding board and or not react and just be a rock for them. And obviously physical safety from any dangers and things like this. I mean, it's very different nowadays, but still it'd be nice to feel physically safe walking down a dark street or whatever. There's not going to be a tiger jumping out on you, or a mammoth or something like this. But yeah, and also provide like a home and stuff so she can do her female energy, feminine things are given life and all the rest of it. But even the giving birth bit aside, there's still like roles in there that are from biological, was my understanding. Is that all just being taught?
Yeah, so that comes from this idea of what we were like as hunter-gatherers, based on a very patriarchal view of what hunter-gatherers would have been like. But in actual fact, most of the evidence shows that hunter-gatherers, because there was a big need to actually get food, when the woman would have had that 9-month period, well, it would have been a much shorter because they wouldn't have realised she was pregnant until they were about 5 or 6 months into the pregnancy, and then for about 3 months, till it started showing, right? And then they would have had a short period of about 3 or 4 months where she would have been unable to hunt, and then she would have given birth. But then the babies would have been put into a creche, and it would have been the elderly, which would have been men and women who were older, would have then looked after the babies and protected the babies, while all of the people, male and female, would have gone out hunting together because they would have needed all of them to hunt to actually do it. But they wouldn't want the elderly going out hunting because they were older and they weren't able to hunt in the same way. So it would have been the elderly that looked after the creche, the kids, as soon as they were born. And it would have been the women and the men who would have gone out hunting together to actually get food and to search for berries and everything else they're looking for, and to protect the tribe. And they would have done it together so that they would have had enough power to actually do that. And because they wanted to, because we are social and empathic and everything, once people got older, we wanted to look after them. So we need to give them a role. And the role they would have taken on would have been as the carers, which is why we see in a lot of, in a lot of European countries and all those countries, they'll have the grandparents will be looking after the grandkids, right? And you having that set up in a home where you have grandparents, parents, and kids all in the same home works really well, because that's sort of the way we evolved, where the parents would go out and both go out and do all the getting the money, or making the money and everything else, and the grandparents would look after the kids because they're no longer working, no longer able to work, which would have been similar to what we would have had when we were hunter-gatherers, when the grandparents weren't able to hunt anymore, so they stayed home and looked after the kids. And then
the best
even
at it.
Sorry.
Grandparents are
And
the
then
best at it. Ask any child. They get absolutely spoiled off the grandparents,
Spoiled.
and there's fuck all the parents can do about it as well.
Yeah. And the grandparents love it, right? And they've been given a role that they can do quite easily, which isn't putting them in harm's way. So it's fantastic for them.
It's win-win. Fuck.
Yeah.
Never thought of it like that.
Which changes the whole dynamic, right? Because it means that the men aren't going out hunting and leaving the women at home to look after the kids. They're going out together in partnership and doing it together. And it's the grandparents that are actually staying home and doing the creche work together. And because you don't need a one-to-one, right, with babies. You need one, 2 or 3 grandparents could look after 5, 6, 7 kids. And then the healthy women will go out and hunt and so on. And there's actually now some evidence coming through that when women go through menopause, one of the things they go through menopause, what they should be doing when they go through menopause is actually to be lifting weights, because there's actually quite a shift during that period to make them stronger so that they can be even more protective of the kids. So when they're looking after the kids when they get older, and they're looking after the kids in the creche, they're stronger just in case somebody comes to actually attack the creche.
Right.
And women who are going through menopause should be actually lifting weights, and it will actually improve some of the symptoms, because that's what they need to be doing.
That's what the body's trying to
trying
make
to create
happen.
muscle. Create more
and because
muscles
obviously
so that they can be protectors.
Obviously, So obviously, back in the day, like a couple of weeks ago, back in the Neanderthal days, they would have been doing more physical things as a standard, as a natural daily thing anyway. Whereas nowadays we're probably, the least physical we've ever been. There's a device or some sort of vehicle or something that can assist you in nearly everything nowadays, right? You know what I mean? Whether it's a lever thing that can operate that better, or rubber handled stick that can pick stuff off the ground. But you know what I mean? There's so many devices that help you operate. Our muscles are needed the least in the human history, I'd say.
Yeah. Cars, right? Cars are destroying us because, we get in the car to go down to the streets when we could just walk there, right? I live pretty close to Mona Vale, and I could walk to the supermarket and carry the groceries back, which would be much better for me. But what do? I jump in the car and drive to the supermarket.
You have a choice,
car to drive to the brewery. I do, and I've got to wake up to myself.
We just had a breakthrough here. Yes, the first one on the podcast. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a fascinating point, and it makes perfect sense what you're saying, but that was never the way I thought. But I mean, the way I was thinking was, men to look after women is somewhat noble. And that was what I seen as, and I would tell people, this is, think about it, back in Neanderthal days. So now I'm going to have to adjust what I'm saying. I'm definitely not going to go around and start correcting myself with everybody that I've ever had the conversation with. But
going phone calls this afternoon, excellent. Sorry.
Shit, sorry, mate. No, but going forward, I will have to, change that, because it's really interesting, and it actually makes a lot of sense with women nowadays. I see a lot more of them being very, very successful, having their own business and things like this, and I think it's brilliant. And they're getting I don't know how equal it is. Actually, no, I tell a lie. I seen a wages thing. I don't know how recent the study was, but it was the women are still behind men in the exact same job, their wages, which is fucking bullshit. But it's getting as close as it has been, so that's brilliant. We're improving on that. Hopefully one day we wake up. But you bringing up that and putting down the information that they would have went and hunted together. So So what? So is it literally just because we're obviously bigger and stronger and faster and things, men naturally? Some of us, it depends. The lines are blurred again nowadays. Some women are very, very strong and athletic, and yeah, good on them. But why is that then? Is that literally because their bodies are designed to give birth and ours aren't? So ours are more optimal for everyday human life?
No, it's probably got to do with the fact that we needed different ways of doing things, right? You think about hunter gatherers. Well, we always think when we think hunting, right? You're taking down a mammoth or something, right? But in actual fact, most of what they would have eaten would have actually been small animals, right? Which you would have had to have been very agile and probably quite small and very quick and quiet, right? Which a lot of males aren't, right? And so the females probably collected more or got more of the food than males did, because they were able to be quiet, and they were able to be, stalk small animals and all those sorts of things. So that's the beauty of the human species, is we've worked together. So we were able to conquer lots and lots of different environments and lots of different ways of doing things, because we were able to take different niches. We didn't just specialize in one niche. If you look at, I'll get a bit sciencey with you, but if you look at Darwin's finches, right, in the Galapagos, and he talked about those and how interesting they were, because each finch species had a different shaped beak, because they would eat from a different type of flower or something. So, the ones that ate from flowers that were really long, they had to have long beaks, and the ones that had, but they just picked on, they evolved for one niche, whereas we didn't. We were very, we took over everywhere, because we had we had a group of people that could do different things within the group. So therefore, any niche we could actually explore, and we could take over, and we could exploit the resources there. And that's what, we don't eat one type of food. We eat anything. We we'll eat rats. We'll eat bugs. We'll eat fruit. We'll eat berries. Well, berries and fruit are the same thing, right? But we'll eat tubulars from the ground. You know what I mean? Like we are everything. We'll do everything, and that's the amazing thing about it. But that meant that we needed varying abilities, right? And those varying abilities you can see. And in actual fact, when you look at the brain, or you look at the men's structure, men are more variable in their both their brains and their structure than women are. So the extremes of the men, from the one extreme to another on most variables, is bigger than what the average male is to the average female. So men vary more than they vary from females, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like a man will be closer to a female than the smallest man compared to the biggest man.
To the biggest man, yeah.
As you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. So would the smallest woman to the biggest woman be as variable as men, or are men more variable than?
Men are way more variable than
Way
women
more
are.
variable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Especially our brains. Our brains are much more variable than. Yeah.
In what way?
Well, we are much more likely to have mental health issues, and we're way more likely to have things like Fragile X, autism, all those sorts of things. So autism, what is it, 1 in 4, 1 in 5? So we're 4 times more likely to have autism than a woman is.
Really?
Where I think it's about 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 to have Fragile X, which is another disability that you can have. And so men are far more likely to be, to have all these different abnormalities. There's many more men are diagnosed with ADHD. There's a bit of controversy over whether or not that's because the diagnosis is biased towards men, but even with the change in diagnosis, it looks like there are way more men have ADHD than women have ADHD. So for some reason, we are much more variable. Males seem to be much more variable than females are variable. And it's probably because of the Y chromosome, because women, of course, have 2 X chromosomes. So they have a replication of the same thing, and it's much bigger. It's very big. Whereas we have an X chromosome, and then we have a Y chromosome, and the Y chromosome is very small. And so we don't have an extra set of the X, right? And so, and on the Y chromosome is where we have a lot of issues. because we have the Y, and that fragile X, for example. A fragile X is because of an abnormal gene on the X chromosome, and you don't have another one to actually back that one up. So you'll end up, males much more likely to get fragile X, whereas with females, they've got to have two abnormal. They've got to have one abnormal on both of those X's.
Right.
So we're much
so
more
the chances are literally double more likely to have an issue because you don't have the backup.
Because we don't have that extra thing, and we have this tiny little Y that doesn't have much on it.
Right? Why is the Y chromosome smaller?
That's no one knows. It's just
Nobody knows, right? It just is.
Nobody knows. That happened a long time ago. It's in all species. The Y chromosome's tiny little thing, so we don't know why.
Oh, okay. Stop asking difficult questions.
Yeah, sorry about that. I can't answer that one.
No, all good.
If you find the answer, though, you'll get a Nobel Prize, I would guarantee it.
Right. I'll see you later. I'm away to look for this. Get me a Nobel Prize. Sounds fantastic. Yeah, fuck, it's fascinating stuff. I really like the whole like connection. We're connected and feel safe, and we also want to help each other, and then that's how we started specializing in different areas. Now, because we specialize in different areas, is that a lot to do because we feel connected and trust everything around us, everyone else to provide the other things that we may need, like, someone to build the house so a scientist can do his research and somebody else gets the food and he just needs to pay for it. So like money kind of connects it all, but back in the day it would have just been trust. So we would all have been a lot happier without money, but that's a different subject. Now, without this connection, with these things creating less connection, is that then creating less people who feel this, trust and ability to specialize? So there's going to be less people excelling in one area of anything that going forward because we're losing the connection due to probably more than just smartphones, but they're definitely a high, a big culprit. Not high, big.
Yeah,
anyway,
it is.
Yeah,
because there is this social contract, right? We all have this social contract where I can become a professor of cognitive neuroscience, and although lots of people may not think that was worthwhile, I still get supported in doing that. And you can become an electrician and do that for as long as you like, and then you can become a coach, and do that, and you'll be supported in that, and we will all get supported in our different areas. That is starting to break down in a lot of areas because, well, AI, right? Everyone's talking about AI now, and everyone's going, "Oh my God, I'm not going to have a job anymore, and it's going to take all of everybody's jobs and all the rest of it," which is causing huge amounts of angst, not only because people think they'll lose their job, but because people, I think, don't feel as connected anymore, and so therefore don't feel as though that social contract is as valid. It is still there, and it should be there, and we need to bring that social contract back, that we all support each other, and that's really important for us humans to have the opportunity to specialize, support each other to do that. Yeah, so we need that connection, because without that feeling of being as part of the community, without that social contract, people will feel lonely, right? They'll feel as though they can't specialize in areas that they need to specialize in. And who knows what areas are going to be of value, right? Who is to say that what one person does is any more or less important than what another person does, if we're all contributing to this society? And so we should all be contributing to this society, and we should all be supporting each other to do that, because the specialization is so important for us as a species. Like, it's amazing. I've got this laptop sitting in front of me, and if you think about it for a minute, just the research that went into actually developing, like just the mathematics, right? That's been developed over thousands of years by generations and generations and generations of mathematicians, and then all the stuff to make the chemicals and everything, and the substances that create that laptop, right? Again, over generations and generations, and then the coding and the language, and then to actually get all the bits and pieces that you need to put into that laptop, which would have come from all over the world, and people from all over the world would have actually, dug it out from the ground and manufactured it. and then I get to use it, right? I mean, it's insane. It really is. I could never make this laptop. In fact, looking around my office, most of the stuff in here I could never make, right? And I can only make because millions of people have specialized in different areas to put all that together to create this amazing world that I now live in. And we should all appreciate that, right? We should all love each other
100%,
for allowing us to live this life that we actually now live, and for creating all this stuff that we've got. And that really gets up my nose, because I see a lot of people hating on different groups, or different countries, or different ethnicities, or different religions, and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, dude, then give up everything that's associated with that group of people, right? Which would be everything you've got. Get rid of your car, get rid of your house, get rid of your laptops and your computers and all that stuff, because there are people from that ethnic group or that religion or whatever that contributed to what you've got in front of you and how you're living and everything else. So get over yourself and realize that this is so important that we get back together.
Absolutely. And I love how you explained that.
That was a bit of a rant, wasn't it?
No, it was brilliant. No, I was loving it. It's because it really, I've always said we're all the same. We're all the same. Yeah. And you're so right, because like you might look at a guy like yourself with a PhD and doing all the work you're doing and think, oh, he's contributing more than somebody else, like the cleaner, for example, right? Now, this pisses me off when people think like that, because they're not, because you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. I wouldn't be able to do, like, be an electrician if everybody else wasn't doing all the other things that they're doing. So I guess the only important thing is that most of us are doing different things.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember forget who it was. Yeah, there was a guy talking, and he said, and he was saying that the way to tell how important a job is to look at what happens when they go on strike. And he was talking about the fact that bankers, I think it was in the UK, bankers went on strike, and they went on strike for like 12 months because they wanted better conditions and all the rest of it. And no one noticed. It didn't get into the newspapers. Nobody noticed that these bankers were all on strike, and they went back. And he said, but if in New York, when the garbage collectors went on strike, the whole city shut down within a week or
one day,
because there was this.
So
who's more? Who's more important? The garbage collectors are more important than the bankers. So why are the bankers getting paid so much more than the garbage collectors?
Yeah.
When to actually survive, it's the garbage collectors that we actually need. And it's like, fucking hell. Like,
you know what? You've got such a fucking good point there. And I wonder if back in sort of 20,000 years ago, whenever it was, if they were the more important people for the people that did the cleaning up, and then the sort of sciencey inventory types, if you will, would have been the least important, or there wasn't bankers then. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why, because they just weren't needed. They weren't needed, were they?
They weren't needed, no, because they just shared everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've really, really covered how important human connection is, and it's absolutely vital for our existence, right? Like, if we don't feel connected, we start to die quicker. Literally, 10 to 15 years, and lots of other things, and live like a, let's say, more miserable life, because every part of being a human, the thinking, the doing, the immune system, the running, the moving, is less without the connection.
Yeah, we need that connection, because it releases those endorphins. It's like, those endorphins are awesome, and you get those from just hanging out with someone.
Yep. What would you say, because this is a worldwide podcast, I have views in lots, was it, last time I checked, 32 different countries or something like this?
Oh,
a lot of them's all 1% or 0.5%, but it's really fucking cool to read that. Yeah. What would you say then to the world to help this crisis that we're in with the lack of connection, to ways that people can go and connect?
I think it's really easy, and that is just walk out your front door and say hello to someone. It's that simple, right? We've actually just got to get rid of the devices, walk out your front door and say hello to someone, and you'll find they'll say hello back. And it's so important. I think I was talking to you about the other day. I was on the train into the city to go to the airport. I was on the way to the airport, and a guy Aboriginal guy got on Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander guy got on. It was early in the morning, and he had an orange juice container in his hand and a didgeridoo, and he was looking pretty rough. And he sat down opposite me, and I smiled at him and said hello, because that's who I am, right? I think it's really important to be polite to everybody, and it's how you treat everybody that really matters. And then he said, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm a bit rough because I had a late night last night and I got on the piss and all the rest of it." I'm like, "I don't care, go for it." And then I said, "Where you going?" And he said, "I'm going to the airport because I'm doing a corporate gig there to play my didgeridoo." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's really fascinating. Do you do that a lot?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm actually." He was actually ended up being, after we talked for a while, ended up being the great grandson of Mabo, who is extremely famous Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, and he grew up on the Torres Strait Island on the islands where Mabo, got the rights and everything up there. And he pulled out of his pocket, he had this coin that was given by the government, which is it had Mabo's face on it and stuff. And he said, all of us grandkids have all got these coins. And it was fascinating discussion with him, right? But most people would have ignored him when he got onto the train, right? Most people would have ignored this guy who but because of the way he looked. But then we started talking, which was really interesting. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I've got to be really careful with my mob because I've got to share the work around because it's really important for us to all support each other," which I just thought was beautiful. And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean?" He's like, "Brilliant. Yeah, I've got a job today. Yeah. But, I got asked to do another job, tomorrow. But I just, because he said I've got to ring someone." And I said, "Yeah, no problems." He said, "I just got to ring up, so-and-so. Because I've got to organise for them to do it tomorrow because I can't take too much of the work because I want to make sure that all my other mob have enough work as well to get it." And I was just like, man, that's such a beautiful way to think about it. And he obviously wasn't rich, but yeah, he was thinking about each other. So, yeah, two messages there, of course. One is talk to people. Like, I don't know how many times, the old days you used to get into an elevator and people would say hello to you. And now you get into an elevator and everyone has their phone in their face because they don't want to actually talk to anybody. It's like, I say hello to people when they walk into the elevator. I say hello to people when I'm waiting for the elevator because, hey, you never know who you might meet. There's wonderful people out there. And you get endorphins released because you're actually interacting with someone, and they get endorphins released because they're interacting with someone. So you're making someone else feel good and you're making yourself feel good. So what the fuck wouldn't you do?
Absolutely, I agree. Like, I'm pretty good at it, but I'm going to make a conscious effort to do it more. I'm good at it. I learned from my dad. My dad's my hero. He's fucking brilliant model citizen. He's an absolute gentleman. But sometimes it's a 5-minute walk to go and get the car from the garage back home from where the house is because it's not part of the house. You have to walk around the corner. It would take him 4 hours sometimes because he'd be talking to people on the way. So I learned that the talk and the friendliness from him. Obviously, growing up as a child watching him, but yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And like, why wouldn't you? Because it might end up being the best conversation in your life. You might have your own business, and this person's got the ability to give you the contracts that's, because they work for whatever. And you can't say I'm wrong because it's and it happens. Like relationships and business. That's all business is relationships. People talking, connecting. Because you're going to buy off the person you trust. 100%. Yeah, I love 100%. That. Okay, mate. Thank you for that, for those hints for people to go out and connect more. Just go back to old school, I guess.
Yeah, go back.
Would you like to tell us?
Throw it away.
Oh, sorry.
Throw it away.
Would you like
throw
to
the
tell
phones away. Sorry.
Throw the phones away. Well, the 20 talk thing was very profound, right? And like I'm planning on also maybe doing that periodically. If I could say the word, it would help. Every 3 months or something like this, 6 months, whatever. Just go away, get a group of lads or whatever. You know what I mean? There's a mind influence community. I'm part of that with Paul. It's Paul's brand, Paul Oldham's brand. But then I've got personal development for men, so going to eventually create a community in that as well, and have that going as like evergreen sort of course, if you will, but it's always running and it'll be in the community and things. probably through an app that's a guy I got put in touch with from a friend. Oh, yeah, this is a perfect example. So it's not face-to-face connection, right? It was through technology, but it was a friend who, I ride motorcycles with and have great connection with. One day I was like, I'll phone him up, ask him how he is. Bang, phone him up. How are you, mate? Yeah, good. Blah, blah, what's been happening? This and that. Oh, cool. And he's successful. He does, he details boats and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Ducatis and stuff and all the rest of it. But he started off cleaning vans, and he's also done heaps of impressive stuff. Like he's a chemical engineer, and he's been a DJ all around the world. He's fought Muay Thai around the world and stuff. He's really, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know unless you ask and whatever. You know what I mean? He just seems like Joe Bloggs sort of thing when you meet him. He's really humble man, but he goes, do you give me some business advice for a start? Legend. And then he started going, you should speak to this guy. He's creating an app. So since December, I've been talking to these guys creating man support, and it's getting tested right now. And I've had a little shot of it, and there's a community in there, a community space, and straight away I went and created my own community, which was something that I was going to set up on a different app online or whatever, like my own sort of online thing. But now I get it through them, and I'm doing a little bit of content for them. And to be honest with you, I'm contributing and stuff, but it doesn't feel like a lot compared to what they're doing. I'm just happy to be a part of it. And they're actually tremendous guys, the founders. I've been chatting away to them. But that's just, that was a conversation, not the example that you're given to go and actually speak to somebody's face, but it could have happened a very similar way, It just
still that connection, right? Yeah. Still a connection that's so important.
Yeah, nice. Would you like to tell us about yourself, what you're going to be doing going forward, anything you got coming up, how what services you provide, and if anybody likes to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so I've got the book, The Connected Species, which came out last year, which has been really, really popular. Which is available at all good bookshops, is what I'm supposed to say. I've got two new books, which I've just been contracted with Simon & Schuster to write. So one will be out beginning of next year, January next year, which is going to be on for parents on doing differently with the kids on devices and stuff. And then one later on in the year about how to, all this connection stuff, how important it actually is for having a good life, which will come out, probably middle of next year. And then, if you want to check out my website, it's just DR for doctor, and then drmarkwilliams.com. I work with schools and organisations on creating brain-friendly organisations and schools. So, it's all around neuroscience and what we know about the neuroscience rather than, just all these neuromyths that are out there. It's just so much crap out there that we just got to get rid of and start actually treating each other as equals and keep reconnecting with each other, because it's so important for us as humans. It's all on that. And with organisations, I really work on the whole idea that people stay at organisations because they like the people, they don't like the work, right? You don't stay at an organisation because of the money or the work, you stay there because you love the people you're working with. And so creating organisations where people want to stay and where people stay for long, long periods of time rather than 3 years, which is the average turnover now.
The culture and letting them feel valued and connected and stuff,
Yeah, so
yes, you've got the schools and the corporate scene industry that you can contribute to as well. And I'll put your link on your website in the show notes.
Thank you, buddy.
No problem. Well, guys, we'll wrap it up there. I do like to keep these to around about an hour, and we're bang on the hour there. That was very, very well timed. Thank you very much for listening. If you have took any value at all, please leave a 5-star review. It does help me a lot, and share with your friends and comment. Yeah, I was going to say like it, but you can't like it unless it's on YouTube, which I probably will put it on YouTube. So depending on what platform you're on, do whatever you can. I am on a mission to empower 1 million men to transform their own lives, and I cannot do that alone. So please do help me out with your comments and your likes and your shares and all the rest of it. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next month.